What's going on, guys? Joseph from H2O Plants, and today we are going to be talking Algaefix and what are the benefits for using it in your aquarium, what are some issues that you should know about, and yeah, let's just jump into it. So what's going on, guys? Before we get into this, I will leave a link down below to purchase this product if you'd like from Amazon. We don't stock it, but if you want it, by clicking that link, it helps us out, and you can also pick yourself up some if you like what you have to hear in the rest of this video. So what is Algaefix? Well, Algaefix is a type of chemical that is designed to neutralize algae. It doesn't neutralize all sorts of algae, but it does neutralize, I would say, good like 75–80% of them. Some that I know that it doesn't work or that I haven't had luck with it working on is like staghorn algae, which is a really like pain in the butt type of algae, and cyanobacteria, which technically isn't an algae, but people classify it as an algae. It doesn't work on that either because that's actually bacteria. But things like green hair algae, black beard algae, slime algae, stuff like that, it will work on and it will kind of kill it. But, and this is a big asterisk, it does not completely remove the kind of ability to get algae. It kills the existing algae that is growing. However, it will not prevent it from coming back. So a lot of the times people with algae problems, I don't recommend getting a product like this until you understand what is going on in your aquarium. Do you have too much light? Do you have not enough light? Is it next to a window like one of these aquariums is and that's why it's getting all this algae? Is it because you're feeding too much? Do you have too much CO2 or not enough? Are you not running CO2? Are you dosing too much nutrients? These are all problems that kind of correlate to having algae problems. And what this stuff is like I said, it kills the existing algae. So it will pretty much prevent it from, continuing to grow. But if you don't fix the underlying issue, it will still keep coming back. So you may have to continuously use this if that's the only thing you're doing. Now, I don't recommend just using this as your algae solution. You should be doing hand removal, such as with like a toothbrush. I've shown that in a couple of videos now. You use a toothbrush and you kind of spin up all the hair algae, if it's hair algae. If it's black beard algae, try and take as much of it off as possible. Cut leaves off if they're infected. Clean filter equipment if it's growing on that. Rocks, driftwood, that kind of stuff. You need to do levels of maintenance to prevent and keep algae-ridden aquariums. This stuff is just like a nuke. It's like setting off a nuke in your aquarium, and it kind of just takes care of it growing and getting out of control. But you still have to figure out what's going on. So, some circumstances where you don't want to use this stuff. One, if you have Vallisnerian plants, this stuff will kill val, and pretty much any kind of clear-leaved plant I would also classify. Now, I don't know every single plant that it would kill, but in line of like guppy grass, anacris, vals. I'm trying to think of, there's one more that I can't remember the name of. But like those type of plants, I would not use this with because it will wind up killing them. Crypts also are kind of finicky with the stuff, so just be aware of that. We do have crypts in this tank. I didn't see a huge dip in the size or the growth or any dieback, but it is possible, so just keep that in mind. But if you have stem plants, if you have anubis, java ferns, swords, those should all do fine with this stuff. It's just really those clear, like the leaves of the plant are very see-through-y. They're transparent, so just keep that in mind. Also mosses, you don't want to use this with mosses. If you have any rare moss that you're really worried about losing, this stuff may kill it. It doesn't always kill it. We do have some moss in here, didn't kill it. There's some moss in here also, did not kill it. The moss in here did not kill it, but it can kill moss, so just keep that in mind. That be prepared. If you do dose it with moss, you do stand a chance of losing it. Obviously, it's impossible for me to know exactly every type of moss that it will affect, but just as a cautionary, just keep that in mind. If you don't mind losing your moss or you're not too worried about it, then go ahead, dose it. Last but not least, the type of inhabitants that you have in your tank. So if you have sensitive fish, much like discus, or you have shrimp or invertebrates, be very careful about how you dose this. I wouldn't dose it at all if you had a shrimp tank. The shrimp will most likely get wiped out by this stuff. Also, sensitive fish like discus can possibly have a hard time with this stuff. So if you have like a community tank, no shrimp and no discus, by all means should be fine as long as your fish aren't super sensitive to stuff. So really keep in mind the inhabitants of your tank if you have something that's really sensitive to stuff. There's so many fish out there, so it's impossible to know for sure, but just keep that in mind. I know I've dosed this with like my, what are they, Galaxy Rasboras. I've dosed it with neon tetras. I've dosed it with betas. I've dosed it with plecos. I've dosed it with goldfish. It's fine with all those, but other sensitive fish may not tolerate this stuff and may wind up killing them, so keep that in mind. Now, as far as what you do with this stuff is essentially you dose it. The instructions read pretty much to add 1 teaspoon or 5 milliliters for each 50 US gallons. Now, this is the pond container. You can get the smaller container, which will also be linked below. But the I get this just because I have so many aquariums. But you don't need this big bottle. If you have a small, if you only have 1 or 2 aquariums and you have a small bottle, that's fine. It'll go a long way. So 5 mLs per 50 gallons. This obviously is meant for a bigger tank. So if you break that down, it's 1 ml per 10 gallons. So if you have a 10-gallon tank, you're going to want to do 1 ml. I do advise using a specific type of measuring cup. Either use something that is specialized, you know, like the little cups that you get for medicine when you buy like medicine at the store. Use one of those, or syringes. Those work really good for measuring it out. Obviously, don't reuse those. Keep that for aquarium use only. I use a turkey baster. Just splattered water on me. Hopefully that wasn't Algaefix. Might have been Algaefix. Who knows? There might have been something in there. Anyway, this stuff is, this is what I use. I use a turkey baster just because I kind of dose a bunch of tanks. And I eyeball it, but I will tell you, definitely measure it out for your aquariums. Me, I don't really care so much as if it, you know, does affect the plants a little bit in these tanks because they'll just grow back. I'm not worried about it. But do recommend sticking to the dosing requirements as such. You mix it in there, let it, you know, kind of do its thing. It should be fine. You want to repeat the dose every 3 days until the algae is kind of controlled. And by that, they mean that it turns white or pink. Blackbeard algae will turn pink when it's dying and then white. So if you see any sort of pinkish color or white, that's dead. Hair algae will normally turn white. You know it has been killed. But it doesn't like just immediately remove it. Now, if you have algae eaters in there, they'll eat the stuff once it's completely dead, most likely. But you will have to go in and manually remove it. So I'm going to show you guys a close-up of this tank over here, and you'll see that it's all white, but it does need to be now manually removed, so I'll have to get in here with a toothbrush either today or over the next couple days. I'm still going to continue to dose this stuff for probably another week or two, just because I want to try and eliminate as much as I can from growing. This tank still has some green algae in the back corner. It's still alive, so obviously this, you know, does take time to work. It isn't just a, you know, snap your fingers and it's all gone. This is a process. Algae is a, you know, just a process in general. So, and I want to preface this. This is just a tool in your bag of tricks to combat algae. It isn't the one-all be-all that will eliminate everything. This is just something else to help you do it. You need to also understand the fundamentals of your tank and what's going on with them to really figure out what's going on. But this is a good thing to have in your midst. Also, while we're at it, let's mention Flourish Excel because I know a lot of people use that also. It is a very similar thing. This is a quote-unquote liquid carbon substitute. I don't believe that it does anything for a carbon, you know, CO2 substitute, but it is a good algae inhibitor, much like Algaefix. I just think this stuff is more expensive usually than this stuff, so this is what I go with, the Algaefix. Much easier, and it seems to work on a wide variety. This I haven't tested fully throughout it, but I don't know if it will kill everything the way this does. So yeah, you could use this or this, same thing. You could also use hydrogen peroxide. A lot of people don't talk about this. If you see algae in your aquarium, if you want to spend the time in spot treat, you could take a syringe, you know, smaller version of this, turn off your filter, spot treat with hydrogen peroxide, very minimal amounts on the algae, and that'll pretty much do the same thing these do, except this will, you know, cascade through the entire tank. You don't have to spot treat, where with hydrogen peroxide you do. But that's just another thing you could do without having to buy other products if you have the time. I don't have the time, so this is, like I said, a nuke that just eradicates all of it all at once, and you know, then I just have to figure out why it's growing. For most of these, I know why it's growing. For others, once it gets in there, it starts growing, you don't, you know, check it, it'll just continue to get out of control. This stuff comes in, wipes it out, and boom, there you go. But that's really about it, guys. There's not much more to talk about Algaefix. It's a decent product. I definitely recommend if you want something else to help combat algae, especially hair algae. This stuff works pretty good. Like I said, staghorn is the only thing that I saw that doesn't really get affected by this, but other types of algae, good stuff to have. So, like I said, I'll leave an Amazon link below if you want to check it out. It does help out our channel, and you can pick yourself up some. With all that said, let me know down in the comments below if you use Algaefix. Leave a like if you enjoyed the video or learned anything new. Also, if you're new here, consider hitting subscribe so you don't miss out on any future videos. And you can click either one of those videos to check out what we're doing. And I will see you guys next time.